Brought to you by Penguin.
The Chemistry of Death by Simon Beckett. Read by Greg Wise. A human body starts to decompose 4 minutes after death. It begins to digest itself. Cells dissolve from the inside out. Tissue turns to liquid, then gas. The body becomes an immovable feast for other organisms. Bacteria first, then insects, flies. Eggs are laid, then hatch. The larvae feed on the nutrient-rich broth, and then migrate. They leave the body in an orderly fashion, following each other in a neat procession that heads south, southeast or southwest, but never north. No one knows why. In the right conditions, dry and hot without rain, it can extend for yards, a wavering brown conga line of fat yellow grubs. Which was how the Yates boys found what was left of Sally Palmer. Neil and Sam came across the maggot trail on the edge of Farnham Wood. It was the second week of July, and the unnatural summer seemed to have been going on forever. The heat seemed eternal, leaching the colour from the trees and baking the ground to the hardness of bone. The boys were on their way to Willow Hole, a reed pond that passed as the local swimming pool. Neil would be walking slightly ahead of Sam to demonstrate his impatience. Sam trudges along behind. He walks with his head down, which is why he, and not his brother, notices the maggot trail. He stops and examines it before shouting Neil back to see where they were coming from. The flies, too, would have alerted them, a somnolent buzzing that seemed to fill the heat. But the body, they discovered, was not the sheep or deer they might have expected. Naked, but unrecognizable in the sun, Sally Palmer was full of movement, a rippling infestation that boiled under her skin and erupted from mouth and nose. Neil, at 11, broke first, and Sam, 3 years younger, would have taken his cue from his big brother, trying to keep up in a race that led them first home, then to me. I came to Manham in the late afternoon of a wet March 3 years earlier. I arrived in the train station to find a rain-swept landscape that seemed as empty of human life as it was of contour. It was my first time in the Norfolk Broads. I took in the sweeping openness, breathed in the damp, cold air, and felt something minimally begin to unwind. Unwelcoming as it might have been, it wasn't London, and that was enough. I picked up my suitcase and headed for the road. The light was fading when I finally reached the village. It wasn't quite a picture postcard. It was too sprawling to fit the image of a rural English village. On the outskirts was a band of pre-war houses. These gave way to stone cottages, their walls pebbled with chunks of flint. After a while, the road became lined with closed shops, behind which more houses ran off into the wet dusk. I passed a school, a pub, and then came to a village green. It was ablaze with daffodils. Their yellow trumpets nodded in the rain. Towering over the green, a gigantic old horse chestnut spread its bare black branches. Behind it, surrounded by a graveyard of canted, moss-covered stones, was a Norman church. It was obvious that this was all there was to Manham. Lights were on in some of the windows, but there was no other sign of life. I stood in the rain, unsure which way to go. Then I saw 2 gardeners at work in the graveyard. Oblivious to the rain and dying light, they were raking and tidying the grass around the old stones. They carried on without looking up as I approached. "Can you tell me where the doctor's surgery is?" I asked, water dripping down my face. They both...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?